Welcome to Love by Design, the podcast for high-achieving women who are ready to stop performing for love and start building it from truth, from alignment. Because you don't attract what you want, you attract what you be. Let's begin. Welcome back to Love by Design. This is Joan. So last week we established the discernment principle, which is that the quality of your decisions will never exceed the quality of your discernment. And that discernment begins with one question: what is actually true here? Simple in theory, but profoundly difficult in practice, because there is a force that disrupts clear perception more reliably than almost anything else. Not ignorance, not lack of information, emotion. And today I'm going to be talking about what happens when emotion stops informing your discernment and starts hijacking it. Okay, before we go any further, let me be clear about something. Emotion is not the enemy of discernment. Emotion contains real information, fear that can signal genuine danger, grief that can signal real loss, joy can signal real alignment. Your emotional response to a person, a situation, a relationship, that's all data. And it does deserve to be taken seriously. So the problem is not feeling. The problem is when emotion stops being a signal and starts being a story that you tell yourself. When emotion stops informing you what you see and starts rewriting what's there. There is a difference between emotion as data and emotion as distortion. And learning to tell the difference is one of the most important skills in conscious discernment. So let me name the specific forces that most commonly hijack discernment in love. The first one is hope. I know what this could be. So hope keeps you invested in potential over reality. It makes you see who someone might become rather than who they actually are. The second one is fear. I can't lose this. Fear makes you minimize what you should be seeing clearly. It turns warning signals into things to work through. The next one is chemistry. Oh, it feels so right. This is one of the most powerful hijackers, and we'll come back to this in a moment. The next one is loneliness, which says, at least there's someone here. Loneliness lowers the bar quietly without announcing itself. You don't notice the standard shifting, you just notice how good it feels to not be alone. The next one is urgency. Oh, I'm running out of time. Urgency speeds up decisions that need slowing down. It creates this artificial pressure that has nothing to do with the actual situation. The next is sunk cost. So it sounds like after everything I've invested. The longer you've been in something, the harder it is to see it clearly, because seeing it clearly might mean acknowledging you should have left sooner. The story you told yourself, oh, we're meant to be together. Once a narrative is in place, it tries to protect itself. Evidence that supports it gets amplified. Evidence that contradicts it gets explained away. Every single one of these forces is human. I repeat, every single one of these forces is human. Every single one of them can quietly take over the wheel while you think you're still driving. You are not. So here's what I want you to notice. There is a specific moment when discernment ends. Doesn't announce itself, the question just changes. So it's no longer what is actually true here, and it becomes how can I make reality support the conclusion I've already chosen? Does that sound familiar? Sure does to me. That shift is very subtle, and it can feel like loyalty, it can feel like open-mindedness, it can feel like giving someone the benefit of the doubt, but it is defending, it is not discerning. And once you are defending a conclusion, you have stopped examining it. The mind is no longer asking questions. It is now building a case. And a mind building a case will always find evidence. It will always find evidence, because that is what minds do when they've already been decided. So just to pull it all together, defending looks like explaining away inconsistency. Oh, he's just been through a lot lately. She's not usually like this. Things have been so stressful. Defending also looks like minimizing what you're actually seeing. So you say things like, nobody's perfect. Every relationship has problems. At least he doesn't do what my ex did. Defending also looks like amplifying the good to balance the bad. Oh, but when it's good, it's really good. As if the highest points offset the pattern. They don't. Defending also looks like seeking reassurance instead of perspective. So you go to a friend not to hear what they actually see, but to have them confirm what you want to believe. And when they don't, well, you just go ahead and find someone else who will. Defending looks like going back to someone not because anything has actually changed, but because the alternative is painful. None of these are character flaws. They are what happens when emotional investment outranks honest perception. They are all human. They are worth recognizing because you cannot correct what you cannot see. So let's talk a little bit about the sunk cost, because sunk cost definitely deserves its own moment. It is one of the quietest and most powerful distortions in long-term relationships. The longer you've been in something, the more the mind works to justify the investment. Not because staying is right, but because acknowledging that you should have left sooner is painful. So the mind protects itself. It finds reason, it builds a case, it tells you that all the time, all the energy, the love, and the hope you've given means something about where you should go next. It doesn't. Time invested explains why leaving is hard. It does not determine whether you should stay. Those are two completely different things, and collapsing them into one is one of the most common ways discernment gets buried in long-term relationships. Chemistry, as we know, and I always talk about, is real, and I'm not dismissing it and never will. But chemistry is also one of the most reliable hijackers of discernment in dating, because it feels like confirmation. The butterflies in the belly, the electricity that you feel, it feels like, but I've never felt this way before. This has to mean something. Intensity is not evidence of alignment. A powerful physical and emotional response to someone can just be activation. So it's your nervous system recognizing a familiar pattern. It is not necessarily soul recognition. So chemistry, sure, it tells you that something is happening, but discernment asks what that something actually is. Those are not the same question. And the gap between them is where a lot of misaligned relationships begin. So how do you know your discernment has been hijacked? Well, there are a few signs worth paying attention to. 1, you find yourself building a case rather than asking a question. 2, you avoid certain conversations because you don't want the answer. 3, you feel defensive when someone reflects the situation back to you honestly. 4, you're seeking reassurance more than clarity. 5, you notice you're explaining the relationship more than you're experiencing it. 6, you feel a quiet knowing that something is off, and yet you keep overriding it. That last one matters the most, the quiet knowing, because it's usually there if we admit it. It's been there for a while. And discernment asks you to stop overriding it long enough to ask what it's actually telling you. So what do you do? What do you do when emotions are running high and you need to discern clearly? Well, first, you need to name what's present before you make any decision. What is in there? Am I afraid? Am I hopeful? Am I lonely? Am I grieving? Say it loud to yourself if you need to. Name the emotion without immediately acting from it. Second, create distance between the feeling and the decision. Not permanent distance, just some temporary space. Enough for you to ask, if this emotion were not present, what would I be seeing? Third, you need to ask the right question. So, am I examining reality right now, or am I defending a conclusion? That question alone, if it's asked honestly, can interrupt the hijack. 4, slow down. Urgency is always a signal that something needs examination, not less. If you feel pressure to decide immediately, that pressure is usually worth questioning. And finally, bring in a perspective that will actually tell you the truth, not reassurance, the truth. Someone who will reflect what they actually see, even when it's uncomfortable. Find that person. So the goal is not to remove emotion from the process. No, emotion is part of being human. It's part of love. The goal is to let emotion inform without allowing it to decide. You need to feel everything. You need to examine what you feel. Then you need to ask, what is actually true? That sequence of feel, examine, discern is what keeps perception clear, even when the stakes are highest. You're not failing when emotion is high. No, you are just human. The work is to feel everything and still ask, what is actually true? Thank you for joining me on today's episode. And if it stirred something in you, trust that. Alignment isn't a concept, it is a calling. And if you're feeling the nudge to take this work deeper, then I want you to go ahead and book your Aligned Love Assessment, where we map your patterns, reveal what's keeping you stuck, and explore your journey to aligned love. You can book your session at joannwosu.com. Until next time, remember, you're not here to earn love, you're here to embody it. So keep dating by design, not by default. See you next week.